Okay, thank you for being here. While this loads, I'll tell you, I'm an acute care geriatrician at the Cleveland VA Emergency Department, and I'm the medical director of our geriatric ED program called GeriVet. Today, we're going to talk about former military medics and corpsmen providing aging-friendly care in your EDs. So listen up. Probably won't have time for questions during this, but would love to talk after this if this is a topic that you're interested in. Mobility guardians, angels of mercy, and death cheaters. So there's many names that military medics and corpsmen go by. Their most common call signal is DOC. So military medics and corpsmen are one of the largest military occupational specialties. And in order to become a medic or corpsman, you have to spend at least 12 to 18 months of training. And this training happens in the Houston military base. There are over 16,000 of these medic and corpsman trainees each year that undergo this education, and that costs the government more than $1.1 billion annually. And then when these medics leave the military and enter the civilian world, what does that transition look like? Well, it's not easy, I'll tell you, and that's because most civilian healthcare jobs don't have positions where veterans can work without a professional licensure or degree. So the VA recognized this problem in 2012, not that long ago, when they developed the Intermediate Care Technician Program, and this is ICT. So these are U.S. Air Force, Army, Navy, and Coast Guard military medics and corpsmen that can work clinically within the VA, for the most part in the emergency department, but they've also expanded to other venues. And they're acting as force multipliers. So they're really enhancing the work both of nursing and from our medical providers. So the ICT program uses the vast array of really great clinical skills that these medics have. It improves the transition to the civilian world, and it also sets them up on a career pathway where they can get more education if they'd like. And then it improves VA experience for veterans. So we have veterans taking care of veterans. And the ICT program is now in 29 VAs, for the most part emergency departments. And there are 18 VA facilities that are doing the onboarding program right now. So why am I talking about this? We're going to pause and talk about old people. So there are more than 1 million annual ED encounters for veterans that are 65 years and older within the VA. VA has learned a lot from you all and SAEM about how to provide this geriatric ED care, but it still takes someone to detect these geriatric syndromes and those that are the most frail, and then enact the vast array of VA home and community resources that we have for these more frail, older veterans. So we had a EUREKA moment just over 2 years ago where we recognized that these ICTs were great clinical care providers. They were in the midst of our busy emergency department, but they're also veterans, so they know the complex and evolving VA healthcare system. So they're great at being veteran navigators and advocates. We put 2 and 2 together, and we identified our geriatric ED champion, the ICT. So we actually set out to hotspot and find our most frail older veterans, you know, this 2.5 or 3 years ago. Spoiler alert, they're everywhere. And then we simultaneously found the group that was going to care for these older veterans. And not a traditional group that you would pair with older people, because they're not taking care of older people with multiple comorbidities while they're in the military. So how did we do it? We developed a geriatric ED education and training curriculum that's actually built off the model of JediWise that's fairly well established. So in these geriatric topics that cover the 8 domains of geriatric emergency medicine identified by Tess Hogan and all, we developed a multimodal education with case-based discussions and simulation. And on the right, you'll see a competency. So in order for the VA to credential all of these former military medics and corpsmen, they have to be competencied in each task that they do, even if it is just a geriatric screen. We also wanted to empower our ICTs, as we want to empower anybody that's working in our ED. So we developed a GeriVet, or it's our Geriatric ED Program Playbook. So it's basically a set of algorithms for each geriatric screen. So when an ICT has positive delirium or positive caregiver burden, they take this playbook to the ED provider and say, hey, here's the dirt, here's what I found, what's going on, and this is what I want to do about it. We also embedded geriatric ED order sets into our electronic health record so that the recommendations that our ICTs are giving the ED provider can be easily translated and easily initiated with a push of a button. We think of our ICTs as detectives or Sherlock Holmes, and we think of them as being canaries in the coal mine, where they're really able to detect things, the red flags that may be going on. They're also in charge of our durable medical equipment, our talking pillboxes and amplifiers. And one last thing, you know, if you're here in the VA, don't be left behind. Jump on this bandwagon. If you're not in the VA, it takes legislation. And Virginia has done this to allow medics to work outside of the VA. I think that's my cue to leave. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It sounds like a very interesting program. It's a good way to utilize the skills that the veterans have learned on duty and transition into civilian life. Thank you. Yep.